A grim miasma of fear still hangs over Ossium. It is weakened in the vicinity of the Golden Causeway, but elsewhere in the territory it erodes the mortal spirit. The presence of the Knights of Glory helps a little, but it is a constant numbing assault on the will to fight of the Imperial troops here. The land itself seems to contribute to the sense of hopelessness. The muddy fields, the twisted, overgrown forests, the beaten-down faces of the Druge serfs all serve as a constant reminder that this is the world as the Druge see it. Hopeless, fearful, treacherous, when death might come at any moment without warning. Some are able to overcome the uncertainty it causes with the aid of Lao, others through the blood of summer, but primarily its effects are fought with constant vigilance. Comrades watch one another for signs that despair is taking hold, ensuring those whose defences are crumbling receive the aid they need to help them fight off the spiritual rot that presses down on the Druge territory. Into this sea of darkness and dread march the armies of Dawn. Between them, the Eastern Sky, Golden Sun, Griffin's Pride, and the Hounds of Glory number some 18,000 Dornish nobles and yeofolk. For all the mud, for all the omnipresent threat of ambush, sickness, and death, their banners remain bright. Gold and azure, crimson and emerald, sable and argent. Their armour may have a few more dents, but it still shines under the mud. Their horns still greet the dawn and the dusk, heralding the new day, and offering comfort as the night creeps in. At their side, 12,000 knights from the tawny fields of Eleonaris, Ossium the mud, the Druge, the darkness, the threat. All of these seem irrelevant to the heralds of the Summer Realm. Their spirits seem unquenchable, infectiously so. They seem almost unaware of the constant thrumming undercurrents of fear, seem deaf to the brittle voices that whisper, "You cannot succeed. You are weak. And you are worthless." Crimson and gold, the bottom hems of their surcoats may be just as mud-splattered as those of their mortal allies, but their thirst for victory remains undiminished. In a way, their presence helped those who might have otherwise succumbed to the horrors of Ossium. Their rock-hard certainty that they cannot help but accrue glory simply by taking the fight to the Druge. At night, their encampments are well lit and welcoming, and it seems the Knights of the Summer Realm are never short of good cheer and echoing laughter. Perhaps more than anyone else in the Northern Empire, the 5,000 Varushkan soldiers with the Golden Axe are familiar with fear. Some joke that Ossium is a home away from home. The Druge ambush is no different to the threat of being eaten by a wolf, or a seemingly innocuous Mora robed in another skin. Some of them eye the eastern forests with a glint in their eye. Ancient hardwoods that seem never to have known the bite of an axe are a treasure all too easily overlooked by their allies. Focused as they are on conquest and glory, where the Dornish and their supernatural friends face the miasma with stout hearts and shows of bravado, the Golden Axe turns to strong drink, black humour, and stories about how much worse Varushka is than Ossium. That said, the Golden Axe are not without their own magical allies. They arrive 3 days after the autumn equinox. Summer soldiers in heavy armour, attired as Schlachter with great axes. Rather than being dour, they are ebullient and effusive in character, establishing a quick camaraderie with their new Varushkan allies. They bring with them barrels of mead brewed in the Summer Realm, which they share freely, and a mouthful of this fine liquor helps to steady the nerves of the most afflicted with the miasma. Alongside them travel several warbands of slight humanoids with the heads of eagles. They carry bows and wear light leather armour and hooded jerkins. Their manner is much quieter. Messengers and scouts from the armies of the Lady of the Fields of Red and Gold. Their keen sight and stout hearts complement the cynicism and woodcraft of many in the Golden Axe. Shortly after the autumn equinox, a magical messenger from the north confirms that the Thule, allied now with the military council, are ready to move. The orders are given, the banners raised, the horns blown. In some way, the Northern Orcs are likely to face more significant obstacles than the Imperials. The Dornish and the Varushkan armies established a foothold in Ossium before the autumn equinox that allows them to more readily supply their troops. They are not the only force entering Ossium from the west. The three families of Morsva have secured the aid of a dozen bands of wagon raiders, bringing valuable mining supplies to Lormar, hungry to begin extracting precious ores from the mithril mine beneath the town. With the enthusiastic aid of Ketsov humans, the Varushkan representatives bargain with the former Druj mine slaves, eager to secure a workforce used to labouring in poor conditions in return for imperial coinage. As the Thule crossed the border from Karsk, from Krevsati into the northern Bonewood, all 5 imperial armies marched directly east out of the Galath fields and into the woods of Echofell. The hounds of glory are off the leash. They lead the way. Their hunger for the battle with the Druj, for the glory that waits in the shadows of the eastern woods, can barely be contained as they quickly pull ahead of the other 4 armies. Finally, the eastern sky and the Griffin's pride, a little more restrained, but not by much. The 2 golden armies, Axe and Sun, bring up the rear, constantly alert for Druj ambushes. The conquest of the first new imperial territory since the reign of Emperor Barabbas begins in earnest. As the armies begin to march, though, it becomes clear that the Druj, caught by surprise by the attack across the Golden Causeway, have begun to take steps to slow the imperial invasion. There were already reports that the forests along the edges of the Galath fields and the bitter shore were being infused with malign sorceries, roused to hateful, deadly awareness by the magicians of the Druj, although not the Echofell itself, interestingly. In the aftermath of the autumn equinox, there are other signs of powerful magics at work in Ossium. The weather begins to worsen. Black clouds spill across the sky and torrential rain begins. Within 6 hours of the rain beginning, the rivers of the Ossium are swollen to the extent of breaking their banks. Tents are washed away. The makeshift roads, barely maintained by the orcs of the Malum, become little more than muddy runnels. Movement slows to a crawl. Every mile of advance is a test of human endurance made even worse by the omnipresent atmosphere of despair. Soldiers begin to catch colds. Some are quite serious. Fires become difficult to light and hot food becomes a luxury. Everything becomes waterlogged. Yet even this is not enough to entirely dampen the Dornish spirit, the enthusiasm for the battles to come. And the grim Varushkans of the Golden Axe simply become even more given to mordant black humour and drink. The rain slows the armies of the Empire, but it does not stop them. What it does do, however, is buy the defenders of Ossium some time. Time for reinforcements to arrive from elsewhere in the Malum. The forest environment makes it difficult to determine precisely how many defenders are in the Echofell. The first troops the massed forces of the Empire encounter bear familiar symbols, marks and tattoos of amber scorpions and twisted, leering orc faces. They have the advantage of the terrain and they know the woods well. They attack from ambush, inflict as much injury as they can and then retreat. Wounds fester quickly in the sodden woods of the Echofell, even without the aids of the poisons that Druj guerrillas take so much delight in. It is near impossible to keep dressings dry. Sickness becomes a constant threat, even without the presence of more malignant spring magic such as the Eastern Orcs are wont to use. The Empire knows that there is a Druj fortress in the Echofell, but locating it proves to be a challenge. The Druj know the woods and are at great pains not to leave a trail for Imperial scouts to follow back to their nest. The Empire is forced to scour the woods, and they are deep and dark and dangerous. Trees that have never known the touch of an axe loom overhead, while twisted roots would make footing precarious, even without the omnipresent rain. The Golden Axe are the first to discover one of the Druj secrets. A chance encounter that leaves a dozen dead Varushkins and half that number dead orcs and covers a series of camouflaged rope bridges hung between the trees, concealed by leaves and branches. Investigation indicates that the bridges are only a tiny part of a vast network of similar structures that seem to spread across most of the Echofell. Useless for an army, but they allow the Amber Scorpion garrison to move quickly and stealthily wherever they wish, launching their attacks and then fading into the darkness again. Here and there through the Echofell there are orc settlements, while a number resemble the tragic clusters of hovels the Imperial conquerors have encountered in Bittershaw and Galath fields. The further east they push, the fewer of these ramshackle villages are encountered. Rather, they begin to come across walled and camouflaged settlements, protected by spike-filled ditches and devious crippling traps. There are significantly fewer humans here than were encountered in the Bittershaw and Galath fields, and none have a status anywhere close to that of the Ketsov. The orcs who populate the villages here wear their amber scorpion marks with something approaching pride. They are quick to take up arms when they encounter the Imperial troops, and quick to withdraw when it's clear that they're outnumbered. Some surrender, and while a few settlements remain docile, others simply bide their time until the armies of the Empire have pushed on and turn on any garrison left behind to secure their village. After the third time this happens, soldiers of the Golden Axe in particular begin to question the wisdom of accepting any surrender from the Druge. Safer to simply kill everyone than to leave a treacherous enemy behind. Their fellows in the Golden Sun, who likewise are responsible for consolidating territorial gains made by the Imperial advance, initially resist any such suggestions. But as the campaign draws on, such an expedient atrocity perhaps becomes more appealing. There is also surprising wealth amidst the trees of the Echofell. Every Druge settlement, it seems, tends to a stretch of woodlands rich in ambergelt and beggarwood, with less common but equally rich deposits of dragonbone encountered here or there. Every settlement also contains a fertile herb garden, burgeoning with exotic plants of a mundane nature, as well as magical herbs of almost every variety. Only cerulean mazarine seems to be in short supply, favouring as it does a warmer, drier environment in which to grow. Whilst there's little in the way of mineral wealth, the orcs here are experts at working with the wood and rope and leather and bone. Within a month, with half of the Echofell fallen to the Empire, the leading edge of the eastern sky finally locate the stronghold of the Amber Scorpion clan. A great tower of white granite, surrounded by a wall topped with twisted metal razors, stands in a great open churned mud killing field, littered with shallow pools, now significantly deeper from a month's worth of rain. A web of rope bridges extend from wooden towers under the shadow of the walls. There is no likelihood of a surprise attack. The Golden Axe and the Golden Sun swiftly begin to construct siege ladders from the plentiful wood, whilst the Eastern Sky and the Griffin's Pride prepare to attack the two iron-bound gates to the north and the south of the Great Tower. 3 days later, they're ready to move. Shields raised to protect from arrows. The siege begins. The killing ground between the edge of the forest and the tower of the Scorpion lives up to its name. Withering hails of arrow fire from the orc defenders are only the start. It soon becomes clear that the muddy ground is crisscrossed with hidden ditches and tunnels all lined with spikes. Under the torrential rain, many have become flooded death traps. Those who avoid being impaled on spikes risk drowning under the weight of their armours. Climbing out of the pits alone proves almost impossible, but freeing trapped comrades before they die also exposes allies to attacks from the orcs. One advantage the torrential rains have offered, however, is that it has prevented the Druge lying in ambush. Some of the subterranean constructions are clearly bolt holes, intended to allow numbers of defenders to attack from hiding. There are even some signs closer to the walls that suggest the existence of tunnels under the ground, tunnels that have collapsed due to the water rushing through them. The orc defenders are desperate, but they are outnumbered 10 to 1. Despite their efforts, the siege ladders are secured. The first Imperials crest the walls. A battering ram is brought to bear on each of the gates. And with the Imperials focused entirely on taking the fortification, the rest of the Druge attack from the woods. 10,000 or more Druge soldiers, many bearing scorpion motif banners or with stylized scorpion claws painted on their armour, attack the Imperial flanks. They strive to be the hammer, crushing as many of their enemy as possible against the stone anvil of the Tower of the Scorpion. They strike quickly, withdraw, and strike again. The mud works against them, however, just as it works against the Empire. Their armour is generally lighter, and they are clearly more familiar with operating in the quagmire that the killing field has become, but it does slow them down. The Imperial commanders are forced to split their attention between taking the fortification and fighting off the Druge ambushers. The Hounds of Glory rally first. Horns blaring, they regroup and turn their attention on the newcomers. "Death to the Druge!" The cry goes up from 1,000 throats at once. At the same time, the eastern sky finally seeing the opportunity to engage the hated Malum orcs on something approaching an even footing, raise their banners and charge back across the killing fields towards the woods, turning their backs entirely on the fortress. Trusting the other armies to protect their rears, they move to engage the orc armies and leave their allies to take the castle. With the time bought by the Hounds and the sky, the Griffin's Pride and Golden Axe are able to make short work of the gates. The Golden Sun siege ladders have allowed them to capture the western ramparts, giving them the sudden advantage of the high ground. As the Dornish and Varushkan forces break across the courtyard, the Golden Sun managed to capture 2 of the collapsible bridges that allow access to the tower proper. Following vicious close-quarters fighting, in which many brave soldiers fall to poisoned Druge daggers, they take control of one of the mechanisms that opens the iron gates into the Tower of the Scorpion, and allow the other 2 armies access to the keep itself. As soon as it is clear that the tower has fallen, the Druge forces outside the castle break and flee. They have little interest in fighting a losing battle, it seems, and withdraw quickly. Over the next several days, a running battle ranges across the Echofell as the Imperial forces harry, and are in turn harried by the Druge defenders. With the Tower of the Scorpion in Imperial hands, the conquest of the Echofell proceeds more swiftly. At the same time, however, it becomes clear that there is a significant force of Druge now in the forests of Ossium. They strike without warning, as is the Druge way, and it is almost impossible to predict where the next attack will come from. Yet, despite the obstacles, the Empire slowly dominates the Webwood, as it has dominated Bittershore, Galath Fields, and the Echofell. As the winter solstice draws closer, the frequency of encounters with orc warbands begins to slacken off. The Druge, it seems, are withdrawing south, out of Webwood and out of the Bonewood. There is renewed violence in the Echofell, as Druge warriors rally and attempt one last assault, but with the Empire now controlling the only fortification, that counterattack is short-lived. After 3 months of horror, it becomes clear that the Druge have largely retreated into the southern forests to regroup. The rain begins to slacken. The commanders of Imperial armies receive word from the north that the Thule have completed the pacification of the Bonewood and are declaring complete dominance of the woods. The tone of the message is congratulatory. The Thule commanders are well pleased, not only with their own success, but with the victories of their Imperial allies. There have been significant losses on both sides. The Empire has lost around 1,000 soldiers, though exact numbers are still being calculated. Many of those lost warriors fell under Druge blades, but perhaps 200 or more are simply unaccounted for. Sentries who disappeared in the night, scouts and bands of knights who simply never returned from the woods. It is impossible to know how many the Thule have lost. They are close-lipped on the matter. But rumours circulating among the Varushkans is that they brought 30,000 orcs into Ossium out of Karsk, and there are whispered reports that they have lost at least as many as the Empire. Some of those rumours come from human slaves. 3 weeks before the solstice, a Thule warband marches south from Krevsati and unceremoniously delivers nearly 150 terrified humans, into the hands of the surprised people of Iversgard. These, apparently, represent some Imperials enslaved by the Druge over the last 30 years, forced to labour in the weirwood forest of Bonewood. The Thule offer no explanation, and return to their holdings in the north. As to the Druge, it is hard to say for certain, but it certainly appears that the former Orc rulers of the Ossium have been slaughtered. Their Tower of the Scorpion has been taken, and whilst an exact tally of their losses will probably never be made, there are thousands of Orc corpses littering the western forests of Ossium. And so, a fortnight before the winter solstice, the conquest of Webwood and Echofell is complete. Along with the Galath Fields and the Bittershore, the Empire now controls 4 regions of Ossium. The Thule control the Bonewood, and the Druge still cling to their fingerhold in the southern forests. But there is no doubt that the Empire now controls the majority of the territory. Ossium becomes the first new territory to be added to the Empire in 200 years. Game information. Ossium. The Empire has conquered 4 regions of Ossium: Bittershore, Galath Fields, Echofell, and the Webwood. They now control the majority of the territory. As a consequence, the Imperial Senate may assign Ossium to an imperial nation during the winter solstice. The magnitude of this achievement cannot be understated. This is the first new territory added to the Empire since the conquest of Segura in 183 YE. The Civil Service are currently preparing a report on the territory, which will be delivered shortly before the winter solstice as parts of the Winds of Fortune. Right now, the Empire does not even have a map of the area it controls, much less the rest of the territory. It is believed that the representatives of the Ketsov humans and several of the conquered Orc settlements are being escorted to Anvil to meet with Imperial negotiators. Again, more information will be available closer to the time. The Empire has also captured the Tower of the Scorpion. It's been significantly damaged, but it's still intact enough to function as a fortification under Imperial control. Imperial forces have been unable to locate the rumoured temple of Arhalagan in the Webwood, however, although in the absence of a Druge army to support it, it seems a threat posed by the heralds there is much diminished. At the same time, the Thule have conquered the region of Bonewood in the north, although this does not immediately impact Imperial control of the territory. They are believed to have a significant military force in that area. Whilst it's not easy to see the impact the Thule forces had on the battle, along with the support of the Knights of Glory, these 2 allied groups help secure Imperial victory. In their absence, the Empire would not only not have claimed the territory, but the campaign would have ended in defeat, and they would have failed to claim any territory at all. The influence of the Druge miasma continues to present a significant challenge towards claiming territory in Ossium. Ossium has been conquered, but the 2 regions are still in Druge hands, and the regions the Empire has captured remain dangerous. The Orcs of the Malum are bitter, cruel, and experts at stealth and infiltration. Any Imperial settler looking to make a home in Ossium will surely have to bear these facts in mind. As in the Sema-Suak Winds of War, the experience of fighting in close proximity with the Knights of Glory can be particularly inspirational, especially if one already has a trace of summer magic in their blood. The general of any of the 5 armies here, the Hounds, the Sun, the Pride, the Sky, or the Axe, may choose to begin the next event experiencing a role-playing effect. You are filled with confidence. Nothing is beyond you if you put your mind to it. Now is the time to act, to pursue goals you have been neglecting. Anyone who questions your prowess must be taught a quick lesson about the foolishness of doubting you. Furthermore, if any of those generals possess the changeling lineage, they will find that the role-playing effect is much more pronounced. A changeling general who also has the hero skill will discover they have an additional hero point for the duration of the event. Such characters may also use their experience of fighting alongside the Knights of Glory to permanently increase the strength of their lineage. Finally, if the general of one of the 5 armies does not possess any lineage at all, that is, if they're a vanilla human, they may choose to email profound decisions and begin manifesting the changeling lineage, gaining the same benefits outlined above as well. This will be a permanent change, however. If the general later wishes to remove that lineage, they will need to do so through the normal and very difficult channels. Please bear in mind that these opportunities are only available to these specific characters. You are free to roleplay that you are present, as always, but you don't qualify for the additional hero point, the ability to increase your changeling lineage trappings, nor the ability to develop changeling lineage.